Hi there, my name is Holly and I'm with Hollywood Wellness. Thanks for hopping on. Hey, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some exercises today for strengthening your core and stretching low back, hips, and hamstrings to help you out with low back pain. Because what happens is we get tight in the hips, tight in the back, tighten the hamstrings, and our body shape does this. So this is what takes the brunt. So we're going to work on some things to help realign and strengthen the muscles that are weak, lengthen the muscles that are too tight to create that balance in the body. So this isn't going to be a full workout. It's just exercises for you to implement and do on your own. So you might need an exercise ball if you have one. I will show you some of those. A mat works if you've got one. If you don't, the floor is just fine. So we'll start with a classic plank. So there are some different options. So elbows right underneath the shoulders, knees down, pulling the bottom ribs into the body, or extending those legs and engaging the thighs. Head is in neutral position rather than up here. You might even see my abs starting to shake already. Now this is one option or variation. If you have some shoulder or wrist issues, this is probably the position you want to go into. Otherwise, you can come up onto your hands, make sure your fingers are wide and you're giving yourself a really good base through those hands. And you can do the same thing. Hands right under those shoulders, pulling the bottom ribs into the body, engaging the thighs, regardless of whether your knees are up or down. Now notice I just dropped my knees straight down. It's not here. This is one thing people tend to do. Now a couple of tips on a front plank. This is what people will tend to do after a little bit. So keep pulling up through your midsection, press into your hands, press into the tops of the feet, and that will engage the front of your body. Cool, so that's a front plank. So now we want to do the same thing with the obliques. Transition to your side. Now my hand is out in front, my elbow is right underneath my shoulder. So imagine if you're on a balance beam. Your hip and your knee or your foot should be on the same line. So if you're here, that knee can come back. If you need a little more support, use your ankle. All you're going to do is press into the forearm. So make sure you're not sinking into the shoulder. Press into the forearm, stack up and lift. And then that same idea, lifting up into the ribs as you're pushing down here and through here. Now option number 2 to go a little bit harder is straighten that bottom foot. Now notice I've got my feet stacked, one on in front. My top foot is in front so that my body stays in a straight line. We don't want to end up this way. And then sometimes people end up this way and it puts pressure on the shoulder. So top foot right in front, so the hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, and your body's in a straight line. Then flip over to the other side. So you're going to do these all for about 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds, and then see if you can do 3 rounds. And then just start to increase your time once you feel comfortable with that. So let's do the left side, or the opposite side, just so we can even it out if you're practicing. So same thing, one line, shoulder over the arm, pressing into the forearm, so your pressure is here rather than on your shoulder. Elbow, hip, ankle in the same line. Ready? Lift up into those hips, top leg is straight. And then if you want a little more challenge, straighten that bottom leg. So we're pulling up through the ribs, pushing down here, pushing down at whichever your knee, actually it'd be more like your lower leg or your ankle, if that makes sense. So again, we want to be in a straight line rather than here or here. Excellent. Go ahead and lower down. Perfect. Let's roll over onto our backs. So you can stay flat if your low back can handle it. If not, bend one knee. So the knee that's bent, that arm extends up overhead. And you're just going to do 10 of these, reaching up toward that opposite foot or ankle. Come back down, so it's 10 on each side. Once you've done 10 on this side, switch it. So again, that bent knee supports the low back. So you do 10 on the other side. Perfect. And if your knee has to bend, it has to bend. It's fine. You can see mine isn't straight. Totally fine. But you want to lift up and think about reaching for that ankle. So we're getting into those obliques here. Lower down. And then when you're done with this, tuck those knees into the chest. Give your low back a little bit of a break. Always hold stretches for 20 to 30 seconds. Excellent. Let's go ahead and stand up. So as I talked about hips getting tight, spread your legs in a scissor. I'm going to stand this way so you can see what's happening. So spread your legs in a scissor, grounded to your front foot. Now notice my feet are hip distance apart. I'm not narrow here. I've got a pretty wide stance. All you will do is lower straight down. So my heel is coming up, but notice this knee, it's straight down. This knee's right on top of the other one. Come back up. Now let me turn sideways so you can see what's going on. So as I come down, I'm pushing this hip forward, stretching out the quad and the hip. This leg is going to get some strength. Push into that heel, come on up. Back heel stays straight, or stays lifted off the ground. So we'll do 10 of these on each side. If you have some balance concerns, you can always use a chair or a wall or something to help you with that. So 10 on each leg, stretching out the hips. When you get to that last one, hold it down and get a little more stretch. You can even take it to the floor and push forward to get that stretch and finish it. Cool? Awesome. All right, so let's grab an exercise ball. Just a few simple things here. And these are just to get you started. I can't tell what's happening either. All right, go ahead and roll on down. See a shiny object. You want a water bottle? No. Huh. Something's glowing on the floor. You might see it too. No, I don't see anything there. Interesting. Huh. All right. Randomness, I know. So notice my low back is on the ball. You can either drop your hips, so this is going to be a little easier variation, or walk your feet so that you're stacked on top of the ball. Either way, hands can start at your chest or come behind your head to give your neck some support. So you do 10 coming up to the center and lowering back down. And then once you've done that, let me face you. Once you've done that, we rotate. So we'll do 10, shoulder to the opposite knee, coming back down, and switch. Shoulder to the opposite knee, come back down. And then once again, hips drop down like you're in a recliner, like you've got your remote control and you're in a recliner. That's a little bit easier. As you get to where you're stronger on this, then you'll walk your feet and bring your body more flat. So what we're doing is we're taking out the hip flexors. So it really is rectus abdominis here, stabilizing and supporting you. Once, now to get off of the ball, lower those hips down and then walk up. Now if you want, there's some more oblique work we can do here. One thing that I really like to do. So kind of the same position, this little crevice of your waistline sits onto the ball. So I'm not on my knee. I'm actually kind of at the side of my foot. Hand just lightly rests here. The other hand can come up. And what you're going to do is squeeze the obliques. So I'm not pushing with this arm at all. It's there for support. I can even pull it away. So it's a squeeze here, and you do 10 on each side. So just think rules of 10, and then start to build it up to more sets. So then you do 2 rounds, then you do 3 rounds. Cool? One way you can stretch on the ball is to turn and just drape your body over it. Drop the hips and really let that low back have the chance to release. So again, hold here 20 to 30 seconds. And then go ahead and set that ball to the side. Excellent. Let's stretch it. So what we need to stretch, we did stretch low back. We stretched the hip flexors. Now we want to stretch the hamstrings. You can either sit with one foot out in front, other foot tucked in, and then reach your chest toward your toes. For some people, this is going to be enough, and just stay here. If that's what you got, that's all good. If you can walk forward, go right ahead. So again, we'll hold 20 to 30 seconds on each foot, and make sure you're breathing as you do these exercises. Try not to hold your breath. It's really important. And then do the same thing on the other foot. If you think about reaching out through your heel and pulling your toes toward you, then it opens up the back of the leg. We really kind of want to focus here, down the hamstrings. That's what we're getting here. If you notice that your shoulders are coming up, you're probably too tight. So lift up. Excellent. Let's pull our feet in for a butterfly. So for some people, this is enough. For some people, you can hold your shins or your ankles or the tops of your feet. And for some people, you'll be able to bend forward. Everyone's a little bit different here, so honor what your body can do. I can hear people out working. And then go ahead and stack it. Let's lie on our backs. 2 more stretches for the low back. So this is for the glutes, which are the hip muscles that, so if you didn't know, you have a muscle that attaches at your low back and then goes into your femur, attaches to the front of your femur. That's what makes the hip flexors really tight. But our glutes can overcompensate for that. So go ahead and do a figure 4. If this is enough, stay here. If you can lift your foot a little bit or hold the backs of the legs and bring it in, then that's your option. Go with what you need to. And then go ahead and switch it around and you'll do the same thing on the other side. And one side might be different than the other. It often is. So if you have to lower down a little bit on one side, or if you can pull in a little more on one side, that's usually how most of us are. So you're normal. Congratulations. And then the last thing. So lengthen one leg, tuck the other knee in, and bring it across your body. Come into a T position. You can look up at the ceiling or back to that arm, but let that low back open up. If your shoulder lifts up, it's okay, because the goal is stretching the low back. And then go ahead and try the other side. So lengthen the leg, even out, pull your knee into your chest, and then come on across your body. And then go ahead and release. And then take your time coming up. So you may not have time to do all of those exercises. If you don't have an exercise ball, no worries. You can do those things on the floor. But the big thing is you've got to strengthen the core. You have to. And you have to stretch the low back, the hips, and the hamstrings. And that will help alleviate low back pain over time. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for joining.